Cricket is my passion and I cannot avoid it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our favorite cricket show, Cricket Unplugged with Mr. Cricket UAE. The World Cup has already started, and so far we have seen many upsets in the World Cup, and I'm sure it's safe to say that it's going to be a cracker of a World Cup. For discussion about the World Cup, we're going to be discussing about the Super 12, and to welcome you all, we have two special guests with us. First, I want to welcome Mr. Shane Watson, the man who was part of the 2007 Australian World Cup squad in 50 over, and also in the 2015 World Cup squad. And also we have Mr. Cricket UAE, who eats, sleeps, breathes cricket. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So Thank you, Sahil. I didn't know you know so much of cricket. I thought you were a football fan.
No. I love cricket, and it's one of my favorite sports. So firstly, I want to begin with you, Shane. It's been a cracking World Cup so far. What is your say on it?
Yeah, I know there's been some big surprises and big upsets at the start of the tournament in round one. The West Indies, that was a big shock for them losing with the caliber of cricketers they've got. The same with Sri Lanka as well. After Sri Lanka should be flying high after winning the Asia Cup not that long ago. So that was a big surprise. But it's great that Sri Lanka have gone through and things will sort of play out pretty nicely. But it's already started. It's already kicked off a World Cup. There's never a World Cup that goes by without some big upsets, and it's already started.
I couldn't agree with you more. After that Sri Lanka match versus Namibia, that was a really scary moment for Sri Lanka, but somehow they went through after beating the UAE and the Netherlands. Yes.
Yep, that's it.
It was very shocking. And to you, Mr. Cricket, now, how do you see these associate teams like Namibia, Netherlands, Scotland performing in this World Cup? You've seen some shocks. How have they been for you?
Well, if you see, Sahil, they have done a wonderful job coming into this World Cup in spite of getting very few games. So I'm sure the ICC will look into it. And now Shane Watson who's already going to be a part of the ICC, is going to ensure that this associate nations gets a lot of games, because, just playing World Cups doesn't make you better. The more and more you play, it makes you better. They need to play 3-day games, 4-day games, and it builds your temperament.
I think I couldn't agree with you more on this also, because, the ICC has to provide these teams also with many more series to come in the future. So now, Shane, Australia, they are the defending champions. They clearly won it in the UAE very well. They were the underdogs in that World Cup, but now they're the host country. Will there be an extra pressure on them as the World Cup is in their home country?
There's definitely going to be more pressure on the Australian team, even whether they had won the last men's T20 World Cup or not. Just playing the World Cup at home, there's that extra bit of pressure in playing in front of your home fans. The expectation around making the most of the home conditions that you've got, but then lump on top of that, trying to defend the men's T20 World Cup title as well after winning it in Dubai and the UAE for the first time. So it adds that little bit of extra pressure. But for me, the skill that the Aussie team's got, they're going to be really hard to beat. I know there's been a little bit of toing and froing, which has been surprising and disappointing in a way, just the way the team in the lead up to this World Cup starting have sort of chopped and changed batting orders and team personnel, which I'm never a big fan of, because while people are fit and you've got to manage people occasionally here and there, but in the lead up to a World Cup, you want to have your players playing in the roles as long as they possibly can. So I hope that doesn't come back to bite the Aussies, because they were so settled after that last T20 World Cup in the UAE. They had their combinations, their whole team lineup perfectly set. And now with the addition of Tim David to be able to come in for that power hitting at the back end of an innings, to replace, looking like it'll be replacing Steve Smith, that for me just adds even more strength to the Aussie team. So you never really want to tempt fate by mucking around with the batting order and the combinations. So again, for the Australian sake, I've got my fingers crossed that won't actually play a part.
Yeah, it's safe to say Tim David is one scary batsman. He is a very scary player to bowl to. And also Cam Green has been added to the squad. He's looked in fantastic form against India. So I think that's a huge addition to Australia. What do you say, Shane?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Cameron Green is he's just such an incredibly skillful young man. To bowl like he does and then to bat like he does, the opportunities that he got opening in that Indian series. But the thing that surprises me is Australia are taking a huge risk going into this World Cup, not having a reserve keeper. If something happens to Matthew Wade overnight, whether he gets sick or he gets injured in the warm-up, something like that, then they're going to be scrambling to be able to get someone to keep. So that for me is, I absolutely love Cameron Green. He's someone I will absolutely turn the TV on every time he plays, whether he's bowling or batting, because something's going to happen. So I'm stoked that he's in and around the Australian squad, but I'm really surprised that they included him for an injured Josh Inglis, who's a backup keeper for Matthew Wade, because I think that's risky. Things could go very wrong if Matthew Wade goes down. There's a lot more pressure on Matthew Wade looking after himself the night before and then during warm-ups as well.
Yeah, that is risky, but Matthew Wade is a hero for Australia, so I think he should be fine.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Now, Mr. Cricket, Australia now recently lost to England in Australia. That too, there was some close encounters. There was a high-scoring games. What do you have to say now? Will they be coming with more pressure after losing to England?
Well, I believe it would be the other way, because this is like a wake-up call for Australia. Like as Watto mentioned, they've done a lot of changes, not going with the side which they want to bring in the World Cup. So this is like a wake-up call, and I'm sure they must have learned from the mistakes which they did against the games where they allowed England to score heavily. And one of the games, in fact, the first game, they almost won it, and in the end, they faltered once Warner got out. But this is better now than to have it in the World Cup.
To say,
Sure.
There's a different pressure of World Cup, so we should not be comparing to a random series. Now, Watson, I think many people have asked you this question. I'm going to ask you also. Your 4 teams to make it to the semi-finals.
4 teams. Well, Australia is number 1. I'll be very, very surprised if they don't make it to the semi-finals, just because the caliber of squad and team that they've got. England are playing incredibly well as well. Reece Topley, that's a big blow for them, especially with what he's done for the T20 side for England recently, but then also Tamal Mills coming in after having a bit of a break as well. So that's a little bit of a question mark. But England, they're going to play well, and they showed their skill against the Aussies recently. And then for me, India and Pakistan, both of those teams have to make it through. They've got high quality T20 players, world-class T20 players across the board. They've been playing very, very good cricket as well. So I think like New Zealand are always the team that make finals. We've seen that in recent times. They find ways to make finals. They always go under the radar. But I think it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging for New Zealand on these bigger grounds, faster, bouncier wickets, and on these bigger grounds, which New Zealand historically have struggled in Australia to be able to win, just because of the size of the grounds, the pace and bounce. So, look, New Zealand are a great team, but I'd be surprised if they do make it through. So, those top 4 teams: India, Pakistan, Australia, and England. The rivalries as well. Goodness me, wouldn't that just be mouth-watering for everyone to watch?
I knew you were going to say that. And about New Zealand, they always somehow creep in, and they are India's biggest nightmare. So let's see. I hope they don't.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. And now for Mr. Cricket, same question to you. I think I know already your answer, but I want the viewers to know, what do you think? Which 4 teams are going to make it?
Since Watto is there, I can't displace him. Australia, definitely the defending champions, the team at home. They are definitely my number 1 team. I'll go with England, as they said that we've seen them with Reece Topley not there, but England are still good enough. They have enough firepower. I can't say no to India. India is always there, because I say this time they don't go as favorites, they go as underdogs. Generally, in most of the World Cups, India has gone as favorites, but they have disappointed. This time, I believe they're going as underdogs, so they will be there. And my 4th team is not going to be Pakistan. I know my Pakistan friends would not like this. I'm going with one team which is just creeping up at the right time. That is Sri Lanka.
After they lose
nice.
in Namibia also. So you think they can match it up to the top teams?
Well, that's my prediction, and predictions never come right. Otherwise, I would have been a billionaire, son.
Good one. Good one.
Nice.
Good one. Good one. All right. Now, lastly, Watson, I wanted to ask you now, clearly the state in Melbourne is not so good, as the weather forecasts are not showing some good signs. But if the rain stays away, what's going to happen between India and Pakistan? Who's going to win? We all want to know.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's got their fingers crossed so the rain stays away here in Sydney for the game tomorrow, and also in Melbourne for the big clash, India and Pakistan. Look, the India-Pakistan, I just think there's enough weaknesses now in the Pakistan team compared to the team that beat India in the last T20 World Cup that dominated that one game in particular. But just Pakistan's middle order now is just questionable. And a little bit shaky. They had Shoaib Malik there, who did a brilliant job in the last T20 World Cup. So just not having that experience and caliber through that middle order, I think is where India are going to try and expose Pakistan. But the battle, the Indian openers against the Pakistan quick bowlers, oh my gosh, that is going to be something that everyone's going to want to tune into, because if India can get away, if Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul can get away without just get away without having too much damage done those first sort of 3 or 4 overs, then that's where India will be able to score very freely at the MCG. It's a beautiful place to be able to bat, and the caliber of striking that India have got, it's going to be very hard for the Pakistan bowlers to be able to close it down. So my tip is India for this one.
And which player we should be looking out for, like the guy who will shine in that game if it happens?
I'm a huge fan of KL Rahul, and I really believe the Australian conditions are going to suit him down to the ground, because he's such a beautiful striker of the ball. When he's batting his best, he doesn't overhit the ball, and the ball still flies a long way. So, I think KL Rahul is going to have a really, really big T20 World Cup here. The conditions, the grounds, everything, I think are going to suit him down to the ground.
Very well said. Very well said. Yes. Now for Mr. Cricket. I wanted to ask, yes, India-Pakistan is happening. This World Cup is happening. There's a lot of cricket going on. But how do you get so much time for cricket when you run such a big business?
Well, my son, if you love something, if you have passion, you automatically take out time. And that's the secret of it.
I mean, clearly, even when he's eating lunch, he's still putting the cricket match on, like he was watching a UAE, Sri Lanka. He's just, anytime, any chance, cricket will be on.
Yeah, how good. And not that much sleep to be able to fit everything in, surely.
Yes, the match starts at UAE time, 8 o'clock in the morning. So he has to be up. No, but thank you, both of you guys, for coming on the show. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be an upset today. West Indies looks down the barrel. What do you think, Watto?
The West Indies, they can be so hot and cold. They've been very hot for a long time, but now just with their team and their makeup, and things aren't looking great for them. It's just, which is a huge loss. If West Indies don't make it through with the caliber and skill that they've got, and exciting talent they've got in their squad, it's a big loss for the tournament. But as you said before, Anis, around the associate nations, it's such a big thing. It's a great thing that they do have a chance to be able to upstage the bigger countries or the bigger cricketing nations, because it really shows and exposes to the ICC that they need to continue to put on so many different tournaments and better quality tournaments, longer versions of cricket as well, so they get the exposure as well, because there's so many highly skilled cricketers around the world in those associate nations. So it just puts a microscope on the ICC to make sure that there's plenty of games for them to be able to develop their skills as well.
So over to you, Sahil.
Yeah, fair enough. That was a good point, but I think clearly the West Indies are unfortunately not going to make it, as Ireland are going to beat them. Nonetheless, it's good for Ireland. Anyways, thank you to both of you. Shane, good luck for the World Cup.
Yeah, thanks, Sahil. Great to chat to you. Exciting times.